Jed Hoyer and the Chicago Cubs haven't quite given up on the season, but they're definitely already looking toward the future. Today they traded fan favorite Christopher Morel. Oh my goodness, it hurt my heart to hear that. Along with prospects Hunter Biggie and Ty Johnson to the Tampa Bay Rays for all-star third baseman Isaac, I want to call him Isaac Paredes. We're going to talk about all that and more right after the intro.
To the number one place for all Chicago baseball. Let's start the show.
All right, welcome to another episode of Chicago Baseball Central, Chicago White Sox and Central. But today we're doing Chicago Cubs Central. I don't want to talk about the White Sox. They're just that bad. They're on pace to be the worst team ever. But hey, I've been on vacation with the family. School's about to get back into session, so I have to go out of town with them for about a week and a half. But we are back in business. We appreciate you guys. Y'all already know, hit us up at Chicago Baseball Central at gmail.com or 773-389-6954 to leave us a voicemail. Man, the Chicago Cubs, they got rid of my boy, Christopher Morel. I love the kid. I love him. I love him. I love him. Thank you for everything that you've done for the Chicago Cubs, man. We'll talk about him in a second, but they traded him to the Tampa Bay Rays for all-star third baseman Isaac Paredes or Isaac Paredes. I'm just gonna call him Isaac because I'm immature like that. But hey, man, they got rid of Ty Johnson and Hunter Biggie. We saw Hunter Biggie a few times this season come in relief. Good for him. He, out of Harvard, I think he went to Harvard, throwing 100-mile-per-hour, so on and so forth. So good for him. But he's been traded to. Those guys have all been traded to the Tampa Bay Rays. But Christopher Morel, man, I had high expectations for this kid coming into the season. It would have been his first full season as a Chicago Cub because he's been up and down, in and out of the lineup over the last couple of seasons. But it was not meant to be. He had some time at third base. He's been DHing, couldn't really get it going in either situation. As a DH, you gotta hit more than 199 for your batting average. And if you're going to be a third baseman, you have to have better defense than he had. And honestly, the best thing about him was that pop. He was a home run hitting machine, already at 18 home runs on the season, and his likability was off the charts. The kid was just loved and admired by fans. And I'll tell you, before we move on to who they've traded for, my favorite memory from Christopher Morel is also my least favorite memory for him was last year in the Crosstown Classic, in which the Cubs were playing the White Sox, of course, and my man's hit the walk-off home run against the White Sox to win the game for the Chicago Cubs, and he just ran around the bases like a kid in a candy store, just happy, smiling from ear to ear, just very excited for what he had accomplished in one of the biggest rivalries in Chicago. Obviously, it's not really a rivalry. The Cubs are the better team, at least for the time being. And the White Sox have just been so bad. Last year, they completely fell apart. And Chris Morel played a role in adding to the misery for the White Sox. So as a White Sox fan, watching him hit that home run was tough, but it was actually really exciting at the same time. I know it's weird. So yeah, he's going to be missed. Thank you, Christopher Morel, for giving us all the memories that you did. I remember he hit like 10 home runs between May and June last year. He was just on fire. Hopefully the new change of scenery down there in Florida for him will be a good thing. So Isaac Paredes, what does he bring to the Chicago Cubs? Well, first of all, more consistent power. The 25-year-old is slashing 245, 357, and 435 on the season with 16 home runs in 101 games. That 245 is already much better than Chris Morel was doing at that position already. And last season he hit 31 home runs and drove in 98 runs. So we know that he's going to drive runs in. And if there's something that the Cubs need help with, is somebody that's going to go in and give runs across the plate, especially with runners in scoring position, because it's one of the biggest weaknesses for this team. He's a third baseman, but he has first base skills as well, so he can do a little spot service also. And then he also utilizes pull side power. I like that about the kid. My man isn't just going out there trying to hit home runs. And unfortunately, it was home run or bust for a lot of Cubs players this year, but especially for Christopher Morel. So Isaac is going to give the Cubs someone who's willing to drive in runs by any means necessary. So if it means hitting a double, hitting a single, hitting it to center field, but not necessarily out of the park, that guy has shown it over the last couple of seasons, and he's only gotten better at it. And finally, with Jed Hoyer saying that, let's see what Jed Hoyer had to say actually. If I can pull it up. As we have stated, our goal is to add players that will help us not just this season, but into the future. In the last 2 days, we feel we have worked toward that by trading for those type of controllable players. Acquiring Paredes adds a proven bat to our lineup for immediately and for years to come. The Cubs have 3 years of control with this young man. He's only 25 years old, and he's gotten better every season. And he made the All-Star team this season. So he just basically fits the description of what Jed Hoyer and the Cubs are looking for. They're looking for players that they can build with and not just necessarily rent like they did last season with Candelario, who left the Cubs after having a pretty solid, last third of the season after he was traded to the Cubs with the team. So the Cubs are doing two things here because I'm not necessarily sure if they're being buyers or sellers or if they're ready to pack it in. They're still like 5 games out of the wild card. They can make a push to still make it to the playoffs. In fact, this series versus the Cincinnati Reds is important because they've been getting whooped on by their division pretty much all season. So if they can go ahead and get some more wins, pile up some wins to end the month with the doggone trade deadline looming on July 31st. Maybe these next 3 games will prove whether or not they're deciding to pack it in or if they're going to decide to try to make a push for the playoffs through August and September. But with that being said, they've decided to be proactive and not wait till after the season to add players to their roster. They made a trade yesterday for a right-handed pitcher, and here they are. They're trying to shore up their third baseman position. As great as Michael Busch has been, he's not really a third baseman, at least not the one that the Cubs wanted. So maybe he'll be the first baseman of the future. He's also young, and then you have this young man Paredes, who is an all-star at his position, and then of course Patrick Wisdom, who hit a grand slam yesterday, and today had another home run to kind of pad the lead for the Cubs, who took the series versus the Kansas City Royals. That's not an easy feat on the road, by the way. Cubs taking 2 out of 3 versus Kansas City today. But it was crazy. It was crazy. Let me know what y'all think about seeing Christopher Morel get traded mid-game. He started the game today as the designated hitter, was traded mid-game, definitely found himself in the dugout, saying his goodbyes, hugging his teammates. It was just crazy to see. And if I wasn't at work, I definitely would have jumped on line immediately. But he posted on his Instagram story a photo of him in a Cubs uniform with the caption, "Right now, I can't think or speak. Tears are coming out, but my soul and my heart will always be in Chicago." And then he also posted the scripture Philippians 4:13, which I don't know, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. So yeah, man, Christopher Morel, he just wasn't what we planned him to be this season. The Cubs needed him to be a consistent bat in the middle of that order, and it just never really panned out. So let us know in the comments what y'all think about this trade, man. I honestly, we knew that the Cubs were going to make a trade. We knew that they were going to trade Christopher Morel. They were even talking about it in the offseason. Which I thought was crazy, but they didn't trade him before the season started. They didn't trade him early. They finally got rid of this guy. They traded him to the Rays, and they got some good return for him with an all-star third baseman. Let us know what y'all think down low in the comments. And tomorrow, I definitely want to talk about the emergence of Pete Crow Armstrong. This man is starting to heat up. He's starting to look like the player we thought he could be. We already knew what he could do defensively, but offensively has been slow going. He's starting to finally get on a roll. We'll be talking about that tomorrow morning. But hey, y'all already know baseball is long enough. I'm not going to hold you guys. I just got home from work. and jumped on here with you guys just to talk about fan favorite Christopher Morel. Man, I love the kid. He's definitely energetic. He brings something to baseball that needs to be seen, and we know he has power. So they're gonna love him down in Tampa Bay, especially if he can get that batting average up a little bit and maybe work on defense a little bit more. He's only 25. He got a little bit of work to do. All right, man. Once again, peace out to Christopher Morel. Welcome to the team. Isaac Paredes, and thanks Chris Morel for everything he's done. And I'm interested to see if Jed Hoyer and company are going to do anything else. Are they going to try to trade Suzuki, for example? We've been hearing his name a little bit here and there. What are they going to do if they're going to become buyers or sellers, or pack it in and just go for a complete rebuild and look forward to the future? Or are they going to make one last effort to try to make the playoffs this year, even though they're not really that good of a team? Oh man, it's tough to be a Chicago baseball fan right now. But anyway, we go holler at you guys next time. Peace.